Sup, my name is Ryu for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Welcome to Guide to Your Side, where this week we're going to be talking about Metalfoes. Now, it goes without saying that there's a deck that you're having trouble with, whether it be your locals, your regionals, your ICSs, whatever it may be, even online. Make sure to tell me in the comment section so I can do one of these next Sunday for it, even though I always have a backup plan in place to just pump out ideas, because it's fun. You always got to have ideas to go for. So, before this video gets completely started, I just want to say one quick thing. If I leave anything out from Metalfoes that you guys are aware of, like Curse Seal the Forbidden is something I'm going to mention right now. I'll probably talk about in a moment because I did forget to write it down. Then make sure to tell me in the comment section below. So, with that said, let's get this underway. Metalfoes are a deck that focus on blowing up their own stuff and have synergy across the board with decks like Ancient Gears, Fire Kings, and Ying Zing. By themselves, they're really not that spectacular, but when combined with something like Ying Zing, you have something explosive, dangerous, and that has fusions, synchros, and can exceed. It is a hybrid that is to be scared of. It really is. It is something that is aggressive, fast, and basically may take a meta spot. It may. We'll talk about that tomorrow on Coffee Time. Now, with that said, let's talk about the first card I mentioned, Curse Seal the Forbidden. They're a Pendulum deck, so the best way to hurt a Pendulum deck right where it hurts is Curse Seal the Forbidden. It is something you can utilize against them. If you use against Metalfoes Fusion, then no Fusion summoning for them. Locking them out of a Fusion card is ridiculous because that means no Fusions. The Fusions are off and they'll have to focus another engine. If they have another engine, if they're just running pure, they're going to be in trouble, and they're going to be in trouble bad. So that is the first card I want to mention. The second card should pretty much go without saying is Fairy Wind. A lot of continuous spell cards, they're pendulums, they like to set their scales up. You want to make sure that you can take those scales out easy, not so messy, and they'll take some burn damage with it. So Fairy Wind is one of those things that you could just go, okay, they activate first, they activate second, play Fairy Wind, pop, pop, and don't get search. They want to pop their own Metalfoes trap card to get a search off of it. They want to pop the Ying Zing. Why not just use Fairy Wind on them and lock them? The next card is something that everyone should be having access to, whether it be an MST or a Twin Twister. You should have these at the ready. They both work fantastic against the deck because they need those scales face up to pop stuff to get the deck rolling. Take that away from the deck, and the deck won't be able to search. And since the deck won't be able to search, the deck won't be able to get the ball rolling, and it won't be able to trigger off the Gear Towns or the Ying Zings. Whatever variant you're working against, you're going to have to know your matchup. So it's not just knowing, hey, Metalfoes. You got to see if there's a Ying Zing side to it. If there's a Ying Zing side to it, what would you use against Ying Zings? If there's an Ancient Gears side, what would you use against Ancient Gears? Ancient Gears are a little bit tricky to go against because they're relatively new, so not everyone knows exactly what to use against them. But that's why I'm here. I'm here to give you the knowledge that you need. But Twin Twist does work in that situation of taking out both threats, so there is that. AntiSpell Fragrance. Don't want them to play Yu-Gi-Oh! If they're not playing the Ying Zing version, it's going to be tough. I know I keep going back to that Ying Zing version, because Ying Zing version is probably the most explosive, fast, consistent version there is. Relatively does not have too many bad hands. And as long as you go against a player who knows what they're doing with it, it is going to be a fucking show to watch. AntiSpell Fragrance is probably one of the greatest cards you can use this entire format when it comes to side decking. Now, the week of Comic-Con, the Sunday of Comic-Con, New York, I will probably be posting out that top 10 countdown, the top 10 side deck cards for the format, because that's something I am currently right now working on. So, if you're excited for that, get hyped. Not too far off. I think it's the first full week. It should be like the 7th of October or something like that. Anyways, AntiSpell Fragrance is not just going to work against Metalfoes, but it's going to work against Blue Eyes. It's going to work against Dark Magician. It's going to work against a lot of popular decks. It'll even work against ABC to some degree. Not a complete degree, but to some degree. You're basically shutting them out from their field card, and that alone means the game state slows down. Another card you can use if you're playing Monarchs is Spell Canceller. Now, I don't recommend this card, but I bring it up regardless because it is Horus, the Black Flame Dragon level 8, and a level 5 body that requires 1 tribute. And the main reason I bring it up is because, like I said, a deck like Monarchs can make use of it because you're a tributing deck. What do you care? Drop to board. They can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! And then it's like Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiend. You just can't play Yu-Gi-Oh! No spells can be activated. They're all negated while this is up. It's self-explanatory. It's the spell version of Jinzo way back in the day. And if you're going against that, Cyber Dragon away. It's a machine. Next, I want to mention Macros Cosmos and DD. What am I saying, DD? I want to mention Macros Cosmos, D-Fissure, and Different Dimension Ground for the Ying Zing variant. For a simple fact that the Ying Zings float by being sent to the graveyard. Take away the graveyard. No more flotation. No more flotation. Well, I believe they still get search. I'm not quite 100% sure. I think they just have to destroy it to get the search. So they destroy it to get the search, and then obviously from there, you don't want the Ying Zing to float. Macros Cosmos, D-Fissure, and Different Dimension Ground to remove it from the picture. They can't go into the synchro. They can't go into the, their big plays, the explosive plays, their counter trap card. With the Ying Zing, they can't utilize any of that. Number 38. Yes, number 38. The one that sucks up spell cards because of the simple fact, if you were playing Blue Eyes and you go against this matchup, not knowing what to do against it, focus on the scales first and shut them down like you would any other deck. If you have a rank 8 deck in the same situation that can bring it out. There's Galaxies, there's Gimmick Puppets, yes, Gimmick Puppets are popular again, and there's also Blue Eyes. Make that number 38, suck up the spell card, you're slowing them down. Now you gotta focus on the Ying Zing side, now you gotta focus on the Ancient Gear side, which way it's gonna be, and just go from there. It slows down one of the elements, and it's a dragon, so if you have that in Blue Eyes, you guys know what that means. You could also combine Dragon Spirit White, but Dragon Spirit White's relatively slow in the matchup for the simple fact that it's only pretty much going to come out at the end phase or when after they pop something, and that doesn't help in all, seriousness. Number 38, however, is more a reaction card where basically when something happens, it's going to get sucked up onto the board and be like, give me your cookies or face your death. It's going to be one of those situations, which is always great. But number 38, in all seriousness, is fantastic against the matchup. There's also Typhoon, which is a trap card that you may or may not be siding. It also helps in this matchup because there's so many face-up spell cards that, Pendulum Scales to be hitting. It's always going to be alive. It's never really going to be dead, so there's that. For you Dark Magician players, there's Secret Village of the Spellcasters. Yeah, I know. I didn't put it in mine. Yeah, I know. I don't really recommend it half the time. That's besides the point. You can literally poop on a good chunk of meta decks with this one card being faced up on the board. Is if they can't jump over your spellcaster that you leave on the board, it's not a pretty situation. If you're playing something like Spellbooks, which I know there's still a dedicated fan base to, then again, you can run Secret Village of the Spellcasters. I know you have your own themed field card, but hey, Secret Village, lock them out. Have your High Priestess, drop that biatch on the board, and just say no spell cards, and there's nothing they can really do about it, and that just slows them down dramatically from there. I also want to mention Galaxy Cyclone, which is a relatively new card. You pay 1,000 banish to face up spell or trap. You pretty much understand what that means. You banish out the scale, it ain't coming back, it ain't popping nothing. And you could also use this against Floodgate decks, like Demise. You use it against a Scout. They won't be able to utilize that Scout ever, because they don't have no way of really getting it back from the banish zone. I don't think they main deck away currently. If they play Avenged Emptiness, if you see a lose one turn, if you see a skill drain, see a Light Imprisoning Mirror. There's so many good uses for this card right now, and it's relatively cheap. You can pick it up for about $12. It is secret rare, but for my budget friends, you can pick it up for like $12. One of my favorite options in this entire matchup, and doing my research for this guide to your side, And I was actually surprised to realize that this actually works. And maybe it was a preemptive thing that Konami put it. You're probably already seeing the visual. I'm talking too much. Maybe it was a preemptive thing that Konami brought it back at 2 because of it. Thunder King Ryo. They can't search. And at the same time, you have a 1900 body on the board, so the Yang Zings have a harder time getting over it unless they have the fire, which again, they can float to, but they'll be eating damage. So, you know what you combine this with? Quaking Mirror Force, Floodgate Trap Hole, get those, goodies in there. When they go to attack your Thunder King, you protect him, you leave him on the board, and they cannot search. Without them searching, they completely slow down. One thing to note, the destruction effect of their targeted monster or card will happen first. So if they use the Yang Zing variant, they have a much easier time playing around it, getting to that fire. So like I said, have your protection cards at the ready, so you're completely ready to protect your Thunder King. Hell, even Honest in that situation would be acceptable for the sheer fact that Thunder King Ryo slows down the Metalfoes engine quite a bit. There's so many uses for Thunder King right now, it's not even funny. There's also the trap card Mistake, because it's the same thing as Thunder King, but in trap form, which again is relatively slow, but that's 5 counters you can use because we're counting two Thunder Kings and 3 mistakes. So you have that whole thing you can go into and just say, you know what, I'm not going to allow you to search. You had your fun. We're not going there. We're not doing that whole thing. There's also deck lockdown. They can't special summon. They can't search for 3 straight turns, so you can pretty much slow down the game state, go from there. I don't believe they could special. I may be incorrect. I know they can't get any cards out of their deck outside of basically the draw phase. So there's that. I haven't seen deck lockdown in a while. There's one card I want to mention that is going to be a while off on Tech Tuesday. But I figure we talk about it here because we're not going to be talking about it on Tech Tuesday for about 2 weeks. Pretty much the week of Comic-Con. There's a lot of the week of Comic-Con. That's why you constantly hear me say that. So it's called... It also goes without saying, if you're seeing the Yang Zing side, you should use Utopia Lightning. Utopia Lightning is fantastic because they don't get floats. No floaty. I also want to mention Book of Eclipse. We'll be talking about that on Tech Tuesday soon enough. Why it's so good? I already have the episode ready to go. It'll be coming out, I think, this Tuesday or next Tuesday. But Book of Eclipse pretty much, again, just like that card, flips all the boss monsters face down, and then they can't do nothing. You can bait them out, go from there, and just allows you to play Yu-Gi-Oh! So it works against pretty much putting anything like Crystal Wing face down the deck may bring out, or any Floodgate monsters, or anything that they're going to use to protect their skills. You can put it face down. Vanity's Fiend and Majesty's Fiend both pretty much go without saying. Locking out special summons if you're playing Monarchs. Monarchs still are just like Vanity's Turbo right now. But hey, it works. I'm not even hating. It just works. It works against the entire meta. It is what it is. I just want to say thank you guys so much for the continuous support. It means the absolute world. And hopefully you guys are still enjoying the video. I'm just super duper exhausted as of late. But hopefully everything's still panning out good. And thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to hit the subscribe button for more, and I will see you tomorrow for more Yu-Gi-Oh! Goodness. Till then.